And here we go. So, y'all can say hi.
Hi, hey Vicky, hey Zoe.
Everyone here. Okay, so we're going to take some notes today on something called on more solving. We were solving right at the end of December before we had our exams, and we're going to take some more notes on solving. We're going to solve by a specific technique. And the technique is solved by cross multiplying. And I think some of y'all tried to do this on some earlier problems, and you didn't quite remember how to do it correctly. And so I'm going to show you all how to do it on the quiz that we're going to have, which is next week. You will have some problems. It will say solve by cross multiplying. You must know this method, okay? And then there'll be some other ones where you get to solve by a method of equals. So I think when you see this, you're going to recognize it as something pretty straightforward. When you solve by cross multiplying, what you have is a fraction on the left side of the equals and a fraction on the right side. Just one fraction on each side. That's when cross multiplying works, okay? So this is a perfect example. The fraction on the left side is 2 over x. The fraction on the right side is 3 over 9. Okay, y'all remember how to cross multiply? Yes? Yeah. I'm going to do this with color just so that you can see how it works. You take the bottom right, you multiply it times the top left, and you write that down. That's 18. Okay? And so multiplying in a crisscross fashion. And then you take the bottom left, and you multiply it times the top right, and you put it on the right-hand side. And the answer to this second equation is going to be the same as the answer to the first equation. And it doesn't have any fractions in it. When you cross multiply, you're getting rid of all of your fractions, okay? So once you've done that step, you now have an equation that looks like the easiest kind of problem we've solved before. How do you solve this problem? Divide both sides by 3. Some of y'all are doing that without showing that actual dividing part. And if it's easy, that's okay with me. I'm all right with that. 18 divided by 3 is 6. And that gives us the answer, x equals 6. Okay? So I'm going to let you use your calculator to help you crunch through the arithmetic and also to help with the check. So grab your calculator and let's just make sure you remember how to check this on the calculator. We're going to write down the check for this problem, maybe for a couple of them, but most of the time I'm okay with you just checking by punching the correct buttons on your calculator. But let's write down what the check looks like for this problem. Okay, if I said to write it down, you go back to the original problem up here and you write down 2 over 6 equals 3 over 9. Yes? Now, this one's not hard, but just for the heck of it, type in 2 over 6 on the calculator. What does your calculator say? 0.3333. Now type in 3 over 9. And what does your calculator say? 0.3333. As long as they say the same thing, that means that your answer checks, and you have, in this case, shown me a written check. Most of the time now, I'm not going to require that you write that check down on paper. You can do it on your calculator without writing anything. Okay. Some of the problems are slightly more complicated to look at, but they still fit that criteria I said, where you have the left side is 1 fraction and the right side is 1 fraction. Now in this problem, the left side fraction, the numerator happens to have a plus in it. Okay? On the left side, my numerator is x plus 5 and my denominator is 6. Oh, 3. I'm sorry, I can't read. So it's still a top and a bottom. And on the right side, it's 1 over 6. It works exactly the same way. Cross multiply. You don't have to do this circling. I'm going to do it one more time and then I probably won't do it again. Bottom right times top left and put the result here. Now watch when I write this down. 6 times x plus 5 is not correct because you have to say the denominator times the whole numerator. And this only says 6 times x. What do I have to put in there to make it say 6 times x plus 5? A little bit louder? Parentheses. Right? I have to put those parentheses right there in order for this to work. Does that make sense? And then bottom left times top right over here, and that equals 3. Okay? And now again, this looks like something we've already learned how to do. What are we going to do next? What property? The distributive property, good. 6 times x is 6x, and 6 times 5 is 30. Okay. Very good. So now we're gonna subtract 30 from both sides. -27, and I'm gonna let y'all use your calculator on these problems to do your calculate your arithmetic, double check things. Okay, and now what are we gonna do? Divide by 6, yes. And I'm pretty sure that that's gonna be a fraction, isn't it? What is the decimal? Negative 4.5, y'all agree with that? What's the fraction for negative 4.5? Negative 9/2. Is there any benefit to one over the other?
Yes,
Which one do you like better?
fraction,
Why?
because it gives you the rest of the.
The rest of the problem seems to have fractions, so you like that better, okay? All right, anybody like the other one better? You like the other one better? Why? You think decimals are easier? Okay, sometimes decimals are easier and sometimes fractions are easier, okay? And when you have a decimal that ends, that stops, you may write it down. The only time you can't write a decimal down in here for me is when you have to round it to write it down. So whenever you have one of those repeating decimals, 0.66666, or where the numbers just seem to go on forever, you have to change it into a fraction. Okay, now when you get ready to check this answer, think about which one of those is going to be easier to type into that original problem up at the top of the page. Which one do you think will be easier to type in and check? I like the decimal better, yes? Okay, so if I grab your calculator and type in negative 4.5 plus 5, and when you do that, before you divide it by 6, what do you have to do? If you do this on your calculator, is it going to divide it correctly?
Nope.
No, it's only going to divide the 5. So you either need to type it in with parentheses or type in negative 4.5 plus 5 and hit enter. Yes? Everybody do that. Negative 4.5 plus 5 and hit enter, and then divide it by 6. And I don't know what it says. There's some little number. 0.83333. And then on the other side, what was that fraction? Oh, I've got it in front of me here. 1/6. Let's check it, make sure it works. What's 1/6? Point. 1/6 is 0.166666. Okay. We're getting two different answers here. Okay, so this side up here. This side over here, John. Can somebody tell me what I've done wrong?
It's divided by 3.
Yeah, it's divided by 3. Okay, the reason I knew this was wrong is because we were getting on this side 0.083333, and on this side we were getting 0.16666. So in this case, the mistake was not that I worked the problem wrong, the mistake was I did the check wrong. This number is supposed to be a 3, okay? All right, so now try it again and see if you come up with the same thing on both sides. Yes? Okay, the benefit of checking. All right. Okay, number 3. Okay. This is also one fraction on the left and one fraction on the right. What's the numerator for the left side? 2. What's the denominator for the left side? X minus 1. Okay. The numerator for the right side is 3, and the denominator is 2x plus 1. Okay. When you have fractions that have variables in the denominator, it's really important to get those variables out of the denominator. Okay, it's really important to be able to do that. And we're going to do this by cross multiplying. I'm going to do this time without trying to draw the circles, and just making sure that you can see what you have to multiply. I have to multiply this denominator times this numerator. So that's 2 times parentheses 2x plus 1. Yeah? And then I have to multiply this denominator times this numerator. So that's 3 times x minus 1. Okay? All right, now distributed property on both sides. See what you get. As we're working through these problems, you see that we're seeing the different kinds of equations that we already had seen last semester. We've seen a problem where we have distributed property, where we get an answer that's fractions. Now we're seeing a problem with distributed property on both sides and variables on both sides. These are the ones that people miss more than anything. When you have variables on both sides, you need to get your variables together. All of the variables need to be together on the same side. So you can either subtract 4x or subtract 3x. I think most of y'all would subtract 3x, I believe. And then what's next? Subtract 2, correct? And you don't have to divide by 1. 1x is the same thing as x. And then come up with the answer, x equals -5. When you get ready to check that answer, which I want you to do every time, especially since I'm letting you use your calculator, you need to check it in the original problem up here. And again, we've got a calculator issue for that check. Look at this. Look at what I'm writing up on the board. What is our answer, -5? If I type it like this, 2 divided by -5 minus 1, is it going to divide 2 by both the -5 and the -1? Look at it. Ladies, you gotta know this. It is, because your calculator can help you, but you have to know how to use it. How do you make it divide by both of those things? Yeah, by parentheses. Okay, so when you type it in, make sure you put those parentheses there, and then check the other side with parentheses also, -5 plus 1, and check and see that you get the same thing on both sides. By the way, I want you to practice typing this. And I think you get a -0.333 on both sides of this. Okay, as long as you get the same thing on both sides, then you know you're good. Okay? How many of y'all remember doing this last year? This cross multiplying thing? Yes, this is one of those things that sometimes Algebra 1 teachers skip over. Okay? All right, number 4. Okay, now, this problem doesn't seem to quite fit the mold that I told you. That you have a fraction on one side and a fraction on the other side. It has a fraction on the left side, 2x minus 5 over x. This is a fraction over on this side. This is not a fraction. Okay, but I can make it a fraction. How do I make the number 3 into a fraction? Put it over 1. Okay, so if you have a whole number and you need it to be a fraction, you put it over 1. Now this fits the mold for doing cross multiplying. And we're going to multiply now. 1 times 2x minus 5. You know, that's just not hard. 1 times 2x minus 5 is 2x minus 5. Yeah, there's nothing to it. I don't even have to do distributive property. And then I'm going to multiply x times 3, and I don't have to do distributive property there, 3x. And I'm going to stop right here because this particular equation that has popped up generally causes people a little bit of trouble. They get into their head something that you have to always put the variable on the left-hand side. And can y'all put your pencils down and watch for just a second? I need you to see this and be thinking about it. If you decide to get that variable over to the left, right here, this is a perfectly fine decision, okay? But if you do that, then every single thing has been moved over to the left. And what is left on the right-hand side? 0. Nothing, but the number for nothing is 0. And so you got to put it there. You don't just put nothing there. If you put nothing there, this isn't an equation anymore. So if you do this, you have to put the 0 on the other side. Now, as soon as you do that, the next thing you're going to have to do is take that 5 and move it over to the right. This is not hard. What's 5 plus 0? 5. So that's a perfectly good way to work this. Okay, I'm going to go back up here, and I want you to just consider this alternate way to work it. And that is, instead of moving the x's to the left side, let's move the x's over to the right side, like this. in which case I don't end up with a 0 in my problem. Y'all see? Okay, now, down here I'm finished. The answer here is that x equals -5, yes? Okay, if I worked it this way, what do I still have to do?
Divide by
Divide by -1, the second easiest thing in the world. First easiest thing is to divide by 1, because that doesn't change anything. The second easiest thing is to divide by -1, because all that does is change the sign. We get the same answer both ways, okay? Now, take a look at those two ways, and I don't care which one you do. You can take either one of them and, put that one down on your paper, finish the problem out, and then grab your calculator and check your answer up in the original equation. Okay, I'm gonna stop right here, because this is easier to load short videos than long videos. And then I'll do a second video.